Hi, my name is Dan. This is my shop. This is where I build, maintain, and sometimes repair my model airplanes. And if you're new to this channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. That way you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And right now we are steeped in the middle of building a Ryan's Rebel from scratch and plans. And if that's the kind of thing you're into, like scratch building, model airplanes, plans, maybe from a kit or something like that, where you're actually building the plane, this is the place to be. We've got all kinds of great ideas and tips, and I'd really love to hear from you as well as a builder to see what you're up to. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to work on today. It's been a while since I've been back out here in the shop. We've had so many things going on around our house, including upgrading, making upgrades to a recent RV that we just bought and all that stuff. So the shop is in kind of disarray. In fact, down at the end of the table is parts for a kayak rack. That doesn't belong on an airplane table, does it? Anyways, we're kind of a multi-purpose shop, I guess. But today we're going to be talking about putting the engine onto the front end, and I'm just specifically going to be talking about the T-nut mounting system that I'll be using. If you've never heard of T-nuts, they're also called blind nuts, and I'll go over those and how to install it. It's a little bit trickier than it sounds or looks, and I've got a couple of methods that I've learned from over the years that I've just kind of combined some ideas together to make one way to make it a good solid mount that shouldn't fail or have any problems for you. But anyways, let's get started on it. Now this is a T-nut. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. It's I think they call them T-nuts because well, it looks kind of like a T when you're looking at it from the profile there. But this is the anchoring system that we will use to put the engine, to hold the engine to the firewall. And so the way that this works is kind of like an anchor bolt or something like that. And the T-nut will rest up against the back of the firewall and provide a set of threads out the front. And the way we get that done is, you can see here, this is the firewall for my plane. And well, I've already put in 3 of them, but I saved one to show you how I did it, because there's kind of a little bit of technique to doing this. Now, these T-nuts are fragile. The threads inside of them, this is typically a pretty soft metal they're made with. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting the T-nut through the back, and then I'm going to use the bolt that's going to actually be used in the engine to hold the engine to it. That bolt is going to be used to pull this through the firewall and get it set in its proper position. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. These are ones that I have done earlier. They're already in place in there. I think you can see that. And so we've got this last one to do. So the first thing you need to do when you're working with the T-nuts is you need to find out what size hole you have to drill through the firewall for it to pass through. And the important thing is that the barrel on it is right about the same size as the drill bit. So you can see this drill bit here. This is a 1/4 inch drill bit. And you can see that it pretty well matches up to the same diameter as that T-nuts threaded section here. Now on this particular situation, I ran into a problem where the T-nut is, the threaded part is actually, all right, so let's take a look at this. If you can see, here's the firewall right here. So the problem I ran into is that this T-nut, the threaded section, is actually longer. It's actually longer than it would stick out the front of the firewall. And that's not something that we can have. That's got to be fixed. Simply because if this thing is all the way up against the back of the firewall and this part is protruding, that means that the rail from the engine is going to be sitting on top of that instead of making contact with the firewall itself. And that's a no-go, because that means eventually what will happen is this will loosen up and kind of push back, and there will be like a flexible area there where the engine can be moving around in and out on that part. And that's not good. We don't want to have that engine being able to vibrate at all. We want it firm and fixed. So we need to have it set so that the wood this tube does not protrude out of the front wood of the firewall and is actually sunk back in there just a little bit. So that's what we're going to be doing. So anyways, the way that I figured out to go around it was there was two ways. I could take and grind a little bit off the front of this to get it in there, and then take a tap and probably rethread this to make sure that after I ground it off, the threads were still clean. Or the second way, and the way that I actually chose to do it, was just to widen out the firewall slightly. So what I did was ended up putting a piece of 1/8 inch light ply back here, and it thickened up the wall enough so that the end of the barrel, or the threaded part. Hey, we're back. The camera decided to shut off again. I seem to have something I say with my voice in the voice control seems to make it want to turn off and on. But anyways, like I was saying, I've widened this out. So now when the threaded part comes through, it's going to fall short of the edge. And that's exactly where we want it to be. We want it to be sunk back in there so that the rail or the mount from the engine is going to flat stick hard against the wood and not be floating off of it by, a 1/64 of an inch on 4 different points. That's no good. So let's get started here. So I've already drilled the 1/4 inch hole here for the T-nut to pass through, and all I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and fit it back in there. And I guess what I'll do is I'll lift this up so that you can see. What we will be doing is taking and putting it into that hole there, like so. And then it will be pulled through here. We're going to use the actual nut that we're going to be using to, or the bolt, to pull it through the firewall and get it into position. But first, there's a couple things I want to do. Let's get this ready. So we're going to be using Gorilla Glue on the backing of that T-nut so that it will hold it into position and keep it there. So the first thing I like to do is add a little bit of WD-40 to the nut, like that. And the reason why is that Gorilla Glue likes to expand and go back. If it gets into the threads, I want to have something on the threads to keep it from adhering to it, because that would pretty much just glue the whole assembly together and we wouldn't be able to get the bolt out, or it would make it very difficult. So what we do is we'll go ahead and take the T-nut now. And I like Gorilla Glue. It's one of my favorite glues. It works very good for our hobby. All right, so what we do is we'll take the Gorilla Glue and just gonna put a little bit. I put it on each of these 3 flaps that are there, just a little drop. Hope you can see this. Yep, and then I always drop it, especially when I'm filming. Okay, so that's all back in there. And then the next step is I'll go ahead and put that T-nut back through the hole in the back. And I'll go ahead and thread this next. And I'll use the driver to finish that job off. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. I want to put a washer onto the front of that so it's got something to pull against. Okay, so I've got a regular washer here, and then a lock washer that's actually going to go on it. Once again, we'll go ahead and start that one like so. Sometimes I wish my fingers were an impact wrench. Okay. Now, I've gotten everything kind of tightened up. Gonna go ahead and just continue. Hopefully that is, there we go. We'll just go ahead and continue to tighten down. You can see those claws are sticking into the wood back there. It's getting a little bit difficult as we're getting closer and closer. There. Now, I've got it pulled in all the way tight. I like to go back and loosen it up just a bit. Okay. And that's pretty much it. You can see it's all tightened down. Now these were ones that I did earlier in the day, and you can see how the glue has done its expansion and actually seeped out the back. I'll probably clean that off just because it looks bad. I'll go ahead and clean those up. But that's pretty much it. Now we just let it dry and let that glue get expanded. The glue will expand not only underneath it and hold it to the wood that's back there, but it'll also come down that inside of that barrel a little bit as well. So it'll kind of pack it into the position of that whole deal. And that is pretty much how we set the T-nuts into it. Now that that job is going to be done, then I could finally get to the part where I'll be putting the hatch on, and I'll put it on forward like it's supposed to go. And that's going to go right there. I'll be gluing that on with some epoxy, and that will be done. Everything will be pretty much done up in the front. And so I hope that I gave you some tips on that today. Working with T-nuts I love them and I hate them at the same time. Kind of if I had my way and I had some of them, I would be using some 1032 brass inserts and put those actually into the firewall. But I got a lot of T-nuts and I got to get through them all. So I'll just go ahead and use it for this project. And maybe the next one I'll show you putting a firewall together using brass inserts rather than the T-nuts. But for now, that's what's going to work on this plane. Hey, thanks for coming back again. It's really good to see you back in the shop. And like I said before, if you are new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. We are, where are we now? I think we got like 350 subscribers. And so, wow, if we can get well, we need a few more to get, I guess, to the community page that I want to have so we can have even more sharing. But if you have any questions about the construction so far or anything else to do with model airplanes and so forth, feel free to leave me a note down below. I try to answer every question that I get, and it's kind of cool because I've got an app that tells me when a question was asked so that I can, I try to get back to them as soon as I can, because most of the time it's something that really excites me and I just like to be able to share the information back with you and what I've learned. But anyways, please come back and check us out again. We'll be producing more videos as we continue on with this plane, and then hopefully get out and do a little bit of flying as well. So until next time, have fun.